So the results of the United States presidential election seem to be in with Donald Trump winning another election victory to get back into the White House. He has taken all swing states in the United States, or is close to taking all the swing states. Let me correct myself. He's won 5 of 7 so far. Counting is going on in the last 2, but he has declared victory in an election speech, because we haven't heard anything from Kamala Harris right now. But just joining us right now to help us make sense of what has happened in America right now on election day is Vivek Mishra of the Observer Research Foundation, someone who tracks the India-America relationship closely and studies US politics as well, and is in America at this point in time. Vivek, could you tell us a little bit about what exactly has unfolded throughout this election day in the United States?
Thank you for having me. I think it's a great groundswell of support for Donald Trump in the swing states. There were 7 swing states, and it was being assessed that whoever takes Pennsylvania, and at least the blue wall, as it was being talked about, would take the election. And Trump was able to flip the blue states, the swing states, particularly Pennsylvania, where 19 electoral college votes. So I think that significant barrier was broken. If Harris were to take, would have taken 1 or 2 besides Pennsylvania, then there was no chance that Harris would have come. But if Harris really was able to take Pennsylvania at least, then we would be talking about some math somewhere where she could still come as the next president. But I think with Pennsylvania and the 2 other blue states gone, it seems likely that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, the 47th.
Right. I think, Vivek, a lot of people are going to want to ask what exactly went wrong for Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. There was, of course, the fact that President Joe Biden dropped out so late in the race in July. Kamala Harris came in with just about 100 days to go for this election. What were the key factors for the Democratic loss in this election, whether it's the state of the economy, foreign policy, the nature of the candidate, Kamala Harris herself? What exactly do you think were the key factors behind this Democratic loss?
So I think it's a question that will be, under scrutiny for some time now after the Democratic Party's loss. But I think, to my mind, 2 or 3 major factors stand out. One is, from my conversations with people here, economy is the main thing. Although the Biden administration has, if you look at the records, they have been able to bring down the inflation. But that inflation actually worked at the superficial level, much above the people's lives and groceries and things like which touch everyday's existence. And therefore, that couldn't really translate into the voter sentiment because the price of grocery, oil, etc., remained very high still. So that was one. The second was the illegal immigration. I think there was a sentiment, there continues to be a sentiment in most states in the United States, and not just, mind you, the bordering states, that illegal immigration is a problem and that America lets people in and then they are left to fend for themselves, or the government provides for them, because that was the narrative of the Republican Party, that Kamala Harris government was responsible for the largest swell of illegal immigrants coming into the United States. And that really rung with people around in the US, even in Midwest states, as you saw, the Springfield, Ohio instance, etc. And the third was, I think, a scrutiny of Kamala Harris herself, her nomination, in the sense that many saw her as having broken the trend and sort of broken the line and come in that presidential race, in the sense that she didn't go through the burning process of the primaries and the caucuses. And she was, she just had 3 months. So I think those 3 really stand out. But I'm sure when the Democratic Party goes back to the book, they will find more reasons to analyze this.
Right. And if I could ask you in terms of Donald Trump, the big question that a lot of people are asking right now is, what happened on January 6th, 2021, when, these Capitol riots took place, where they were challenging the validity of the election results of 2020. Many people then said that, Donald Trump is finished. And over the years, he's been convicted for, in a financial fraud case. There are a number of different election cases against him. Can you explain a little bit about the remarkable political resilience of Donald Trump to come back from all of that and somehow still convince the majority of the electorate that he should be re-elected to the White House? What exactly is going on here with the Donald Trump brand? Could you detail his political journey over the last 4 years to come back to this election victory?
Yeah, I think that's really on the table in the sense that if you look at presidential comebacks, this would be written in history in terms of there being a precedent in between and then he comes back. There have been very few U.S. presidents who've done that. So I think that really goes into the history books. But in terms of the relevance of Donald Trump, I think because of the Biden administration and because of the swell of support, at least at the popular level that we saw for Kamala Harris, the idea of Trump sort of got relegated. But I think he remained important to people in the sense that it was the right time because the inflation was bad. The country is at a position. There are two wars which actually played a lot into the sentiments of the people. So there are externalities which really played into this. But it also happened at the right time for him. So for people here, I think the fact that Donald Trump remains an outsider rings loud in the sense that Kamala Harris is still within the institution and within the system. Donald Trump is an outsider who will fix the system. That's the resonance with people here. And I think that really separates him from the crowd. And that is something that has sustained his popularity.
Right. So what happens going forward here, Vivek, in terms of Donald Trump? What do we expect to see in the days and weeks and months ahead leading up to his second inauguration as the 47th president of the United States? What are we expecting to see? The formation of the cabinet and so on and so forth. Could you explain to our viewers what happens in the days and weeks to come now?
So now at least there will be a joint session where he'll be confirmed, and January 20th is where he will take the position as the 47th president of the United States. Now, if it was very close, we could have been on the edge about another political violence, but I think now we are certain that there is none. But there's also a lesson that the Republican Party and the broadly should take away from a democratic loss, which is to accept the defeat. But I think broadly after this, once he takes charge, I think he has already hinted in his campaigns what he's going to do, which most presidents do, which is to bring out a slew of executive orders. And Donald Trump for himself has promised things like, on his first day, dealing with things like deportation, illegal immigration, tariffs. Now, I'm not sure if tariffs will come right up front on his term. But I think illegal immigration and policing, etc., could come really upfront. I think he will focus on oil a lot. In terms of the cabinet, some things are clear. As example, for example, health will probably be a department where Bobby Kennedy will be looking into it. But for Elon Musk, I don't see Elon getting into the government. I think he can be an advisor to the government, given his character and persona. He wouldn't want to be restrained by the bureaucracy of the U.S. government, and I think the U.S. government is at such a juncture where it needs Elon Musk more than Elon Musk needs the U.S. government. Look at Boeing. Boeing is in a soup. So the only credible partner which can help NASA and other partners to do what it wants to do and actually accelerate that pace is SpaceX. So I think he would want be outside and be one of the advisors on space and technology and other things. His other members of the cabinet are difficult at this moment, but don't forget Jared Kushner. I think Mike Pompeo is very ambitious. He could return into the defense portfolio in some form. And of course, Vivek Ramaswamy, I see setting there. So I think those are some of the people, and Ivanka finding some spot there. But beyond that, because Trump has hinted that he will be very careful in forming his cabinet this time, because last time he was quote unquote forced by institutional pressures and funders to appoint some people in his cabinet. So I think he'll be very careful this time.
Right. Vivek, one last question before I let you go, because I understand it's very late in the United States right now. Could you talk about the international reaction? I mean, if you're scrolling Twitter, as I am, you have a lot of Europeans up in arms saying that, we should not be dependent on the United States like this. We should not live in dread. We must arm ourselves. We must be ready for our defense. Because, of course, given Europe's dependency on America to fight its war in Ukraine, lots of worried Europeans that you're seeing. You're also seeing concerns among a lot of U.S. allies. In India, the mood is fairly mixed. You're seeing Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has come out and congratulated Trump very strongly on his victory. What is going to be the global reaction to Trump's return to the White House?
So I think some of the recalibrations for a potential Trump administration were already in place. So you could see Europe really repositioning itself in terms of NATO spending, in terms of the GDP percentage spending, but they haven't reached there. For example, South Korea signed a deal 2 days ago with the Biden administration to make it more structural so that it transitioned the government change. So I think governments all across have been positioning themselves for this change, but be ready for surprises is my message to most countries, because he on the issue of tariff, I don't think he will, he would want to negotiate and come to a number where it doesn't look like the United States is giving a free pass to imports from other countries, and particularly China. I think the tariff question is going to be looming very large. Now, in what number is again a question that we'll have to see. On the questions of conflict, it'll be interesting to see where he positions himself and how quickly does he really get his hands dirty in the two wars, and is he able to really bring the two warring parties on the table to talk. On Israel, I think he's going to really double down in terms of his support to Benjamin Netanyahu. We saw that movie when Netanyahu visited Washington, D.C. They had a private conversation. But he also doesn't want to send a signal back home that he's being dragged into a war. So he'll be careful there. But I think in terms of support, he's going to go all out in terms of Israel and restrain when it comes to Ukraine.
Understood. Vivek Mishra, thank you so much for joining us from the United States. As late as it is, for joining us in declaring this result for Donald Trump, this big election victory for him, his return to the White House, becoming only the second U.S. president since Grover Cleveland to win non-consecutive terms back in the White House again after 4 years, Donald Trump. Thank you so much, Vivek, for joining us. Thank you so much for our viewers for watching us. We will continue to bring you the best expert analysis available on Trump's victory, how he won, why he won, as well as his impact on India, as well as the rest of the world. Thank you so much again for joining us in India Today Global.